All right, so guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm John. I am no longer pursuing Hollywood in the traditional sense. I am now doing it on my own with my own money. So from now on, I am the industry. I'm here to do this in my own way and get it done and not have to like bow and scrape and beg Hollywood for opportunity. I'm doing it my own way. From now on, I am the industry and Hollywood chases me. So please like this video, please subscribe so I can build this platform to make more movies and make more opportunities for people of color and other marginalized communities who have a very, very hard time breaking into Hollywood just like I did. So here's part 2 of the video. What was I talking about? I think a minute ago I was talking about how some of the cinematography work was pretty bad, and so I hired a cinematographer. There was a lot of problems with his work and the way he conducts business, and I wound up blowing through $14,000 on a failed film project, and this is part 2 of that video. So please like this video and let's get into it. So part 2 starts like this. So I'm working with this dude. He underquoted me by a lot of money. The first day was very chaotic and very messy, and we only got through about a third of what he said he would do that day. And it took 2 more days. And by the way, I'm paying this guy by the day. So I kind of think like the reason he wants to spend like 4 hours on a scene is to run up more days that I'm paying him by. So I want us overspending by about $2,200 more than what he quoted me. And and also I should say some of the work was kind of low quality. The cinematography was kind of hit or miss. Like he was a cinematography company, and he was the CEO of it, but some of the work was questionable. There were a couple of scenes where the scene was overlit, but it was also grainy. Like how is that even possible? How is there too much light in a scene, and yet also it's grainy? I always thought that a grainy scene is because there's not enough light hitting the sensor, but there's too much light in the scene. So how's that even possible? So, and also some of the sound recording was just awful. We filmed 3 days in my apartment, and we filmed one day at a club, and we filmed one day at an office and at a green screen. And literally the office sound recording was so terrible. He had a sound technician there. So I asked the guy in the office scenes, hey, this room is very echoey. I clapped my hands. I said, you hear that echo? He said, oh, it's no big deal. It's going to be fine. So when I actually got the sound files, it was so echoey. There was so much reverb, I couldn't even use the sound. So I actually had to wind up re-recording all the sound that took place on that office day. All of the sound in the office scenes is re-recorded. So we did ADR. I brought the actors back to my apartment afterwards, after finding out how bad the sound was, and I re-recorded all the dialogue in the office and probably about half the dialogue that happened in the apartments, because that's how bad the sound was. The sound was just horribly recorded. We recorded sound on these things, on these boom mics, and half the time, his sound boom mics weren't recording. Or another issue was he had a Blackmagic 6K camera, and this camera, which is supposedly like the hottest camera in the game, but this camera sometimes, for no discernible purpose, will start recording audio and video out of sync. So the problem is that the camera is recording the video and the audio at different speeds. So as you go farther into the file, the actor's lips and the actual sound is way, way off, and it drifts farther and farther apart. It's called audio drift. So that's another huge problem with the sound. Another time, another issue was sometimes the actors were wearing lavalier mics, which are individual mics that go under the actor's clothes. So you hear a lot of rustling on those mics because my cinematographer and his crew, they were not skilled in hiding microphones underneath clothes in such a way you don't hear rustling. So a lot of those lavalier mics, you hear a lot of this. Like I'm talking, having a conversation, running a scene, and all you hear is this. As the actors move, the clothes are rustling, and it just sounds like garbage. So that was unusable. So a lot of that sound had to be re-recorded as well. And then also, the very first day, my cinematographer we only had one lavalier mic for some reason. We actually bought two, but his crew didn't know how to like hook it up properly, so we only had one lavalier mic working that day. And he told me, my cinematographer told me that one lavalier mic will pick up both actors in a scene, which is somewhat true. But what I found out the hard way is that as actors move farther apart from one another, the actor wearing a microphone is getting less and less sound from the other actor. So if they're this far apart, I think one lavalier mic is fine. But if the actors are this far apart, that's when you start really hearing low quality sound coming through. So really, that was just a hot mess. Sound was a hot mess. The other issue was the sound boom wasn't recording. We recorded on these things here. And a lot of times, I don't know if his equipment was old or his crew was incompetent or what, but half the time his sound boom was not recording. So the guy is holding the sound boom like this over the actor's head, but there's no sound on that track. Those sound files were the same size as all the other sound files, but they were blank. So I don't know what to do about that. And then the other issue with the sound was just terrible sound recording. Just lavaliers being hidden too deep under clothes, muffled sound that sounds like this. It was just terrible audio. So I would say about half the project had terrible sound. And I shouldn't be too hard on him because half the project had great sound. It was really hit or miss. When it came to the sound recording job that he did for me. This film did not have a director. I hired this guy as my cinematographer, and we kind of like passed the buck a little bit. Like most of the project, you see actors standing around, and there really wasn't a director telling them how to move. So a lot of times they're kind of just standing still or just kind of like improvising the blocking. They're kind of just making up the movements on their own, which is not good, which is entirely my fault, not his fault. Because I should have been directing the project. I should have been much more of a leader. And also another issue with not having a director was this apartment has a lot of bare, blank, beige walls that look really, really bad on camera. And I think that was another one of the huge problems that we experienced. My cinematographer and I, we did kick around some ideas on how to properly decorate this apartment to make it look like not some bare black apartment. And we did a couple things, but I think it still came out looking pretty bad. A lot of the walls are blank. And also, this apartment just isn't the best for filming in. So this apartment doesn't have open concept. Each room is like its own individual room off to itself. Like 4 years ago, when I lived in North Hollywood, I had an apartment that was open concept. The kitchen and the living room and dining room were all one big room. So that probably would have been better for filming in, but this apartment doesn't really have that. So I'm thinking like this apartment probably isn't the best for filming in. And of course, but of course, he didn't tell me that. He was like, "Oh, sure, this apartment is great. Let's get started on this project." He was just saying yes to everything because he wanted to get paid. So that's another huge problem, and another major lesson I learned off this failed film was that a lot of people just be like saying yes to everything to get paid, and that's a huge problem because if there's a huge problem, they say, "Oh no, it's not a problem at all. It's going to be great," and it is a huge problem. But yeah, we failed miserably on set design, and it just I didn't know how bad my walls looked and how bad my apartment looks on camera until I actually got the footage from him. Another huge mistake was not checking the footage on basis. I didn't look at any of the footage until he turned it all in at the very end of the project, after everything is filmed, after the actors have gone home, moved on to other projects. That was the first time I ever even looked at any of the footage, which is a huge problem, which is all my fault, not his. Okay, so the other issue with my cinematographer was his Dana Dolly. Now, I've talked before about how I think he was like kind of like working slow to kind of like drag the project out and make you pay for more days because I was paying him by the day. So he had this massive Dana Dolly, which is a giant piece of film equipment, probably half the size of this room. It was so time consuming and so unnecessary. Like he would spend so much time moving this thing around, like getting it in the right position, putting the camera on it, taking the camera off of it, sliding it back and forth, and things. It came in pieces, so he has to like take it out of the carrying case, build it up, screw it on, put the camera on it. Oh, that's not a good shot. All right, lower it down, unscrew it. It was a huge waste of time. And part of it is my fault. I should be like, no, stop doing that. You're wasting time. But at that point, I was not enough of a leader to say, hey, cut it out. That's wasting my time. And like, that's what the things I wish I had said, and what I'll definitely be doing as I move forward in the industry on my own. So that being said, what else can I talk about? So the Danny Dog. Okay, so he also told me that I spoke before about how he told me that we were gonna film everything in the apartment on one day and also get B-roll and exterior shots on that one day. So obviously that didn't happen. We filmed 3 full days on the inside the apartment, and then he charged me another half a day to get exterior shots outside the apartment. Okay, so okay, so right, so the day we got exterior shots outside my apartment, he brings a Dana dolly. He starts unscrewing it, taking it apart, and he would spend like 25 minutes getting one shot or one sliding shot of my apartment complex. And then if you want to get a shot across the street, he wants to like take the dolly apart, put it back in the carrying case, carry it across the street, build it back up, screw it back in. It was just so time consuming. I really do believe that this guy's like a used car salesman. Like he was just telling me what was going to get him paid more money, and I got taken for a ride, and I don't appreciate that. And you know, I should also say like after all his surprise fees, I spent about $2,200 more than what he originally quoted me. But I feel like it's like when you rent a U-Haul truck, you know, it says $20 a day, but actually it's $20 a day plus 50 cents a mile, plus gas, plus insurance, plus this fee, plus that fee. It winds up being a whole lot more than what they originally quoted you. Okay, so I said before about how this guy wanted like 5 camera angles per scene and wanted like 15 takes per camera angle. So when at the end of the project, when he handed me the hard drive, there was 3.2 terabytes of footage. I broke it down. That equals 850 minutes of footage. The script was about 22 pages long and wound up being about half an hour long. This man filmed 850 minutes of footage. I had to sift through all that footage. It took me a month. Every day after work, I would spend hours watching all these takes, which by the way are all the same. Mostly they were the same. I had to watch all of them to pick the best take. It took me a month just to get through it. So once I did that, then I went into the corresponding sound files, because we were recording the film on his Blackmagic camera, which had an internal microphone, but also we were also filming on, we were also recording sound on these sound booms like these. So when I went into the sound files folder to get the accompanying sound, half of it was unusable. That's when I found out that a lot of the sound recording was of very, very poor quality. But at that point, the actors had moved on to other projects. So once I decided I couldn't fix the sound, I had to go back and redecide which takes to use, because I already had decided not to, because I had already decided which takes to use. But then when I found out that take doesn't have good sound, or that take is out of sync, or that take the sound boom wasn't recording, or that take, you know, it has this issue or that issue, I had to decide to use a different take. So I had to go back and spend 2 more weeks redeciding which takes to use. And you know, I honestly think I spent 3 months of a 6-month editing process just fixing sound. It took me 6 whole months to edit a 30-minute project. It should have took 3 weeks. But I think 3 of those months were just spent fixing sound. I had to bring the actors back and record ADR. And there's a lot of places in this film where you're going to notice the actor's lips and the sound doesn't quite match up perfectly, because those scenes I had to do ADR on them, because I just didn't have any good sound for those scenes. And it's sad, but I definitely think that the actual final project of the film was greatly compromised by that. But yeah. All right, so there you have it. That is part 2 of my video of how I blew through $14,000 on a project that flopped, got terrible reception, and I spent $14,000, got a film that I think is pretty good, but got terrible reception, did not move my career forward an iota, and most of what I got from it was lessons. But maybe I think those lessons are valuable. I think at the end of the day, maybe the lessons you learn actually were worth the money, because you're moving forward with a lot more knowledge. And as you're on this journey of pursuing Hollywood on your own and not like chasing this industry, as I'm on this journey of saying, I am the industry, I'm making my own films now. I'm not begging for a job in the industry. I am the industry. I have a lot more knowledge and a lot more street smarts that I can bring to my next film. And I'm really excited about making my next film. So, and I have so much more wisdom and so much invaluable lessons that I've learned. And this next film is going to be much better than this one. So I guess that's what I got out of it. At the end of the day, that's what I spent $14,000 on, lessons. And honestly, it was worth it. All right, guys. That's it for this video. Please like this video. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel as I build out this platform of making films on my own. I'm no longer chasing the industry. I am the industry.